The 9th chapter of the first canto is actually the passing away of Bhishma Deva. It's a very wonderful explanation of how Bhishma Deva passes away in the presence of Lord Krishna. As we all know, once the war was over and Pandavas won the war and all the Kauravas are dead, Yudhishthira is crowned as king, and all this time Bhishma Deva is lying on his Sharashaya, or the bed of arrows, awaiting his passing, because Bhishma Deva, as we know, he has got this particular boon of Ichha Mrityu. That means Bhishma Dev can die whenever he wants. It's a sign of a great yogi that you are able to leave your body at an appropriate time and according to your own will and wish. And Bhishma is one such great personality who has been endowed with that. Bhishma Deva, we also understand, is one of the 12 Mahajanas. That means he has a very unique position in the whole of Bhagavata Dharma as being one of the 12 topmost experts in the science of bhakti. Authority. 12 Mahajanas are considered to be the topmost authorities, and Bhishma Dev is one such authority in all these subjects. So this chapter describes in a short way how Lord Krishna arrives and how Lord Bhishma passes away. Bhishma is actually one of the Ashtavasus. He has come to take part in this Mahabharata Leela along with Lord Krishna. And so he is not just this Bhishma that we see, Devavrata, son of Ganga and Shantanu. Not only that, he is also one of the 8 Vasus. Means they are all demigods who have got big responsibilities to do. And Bhishma is one such personality. So today this chapter speaks about how Bhishma leaves his body. Bhishma, because of his shapadha, or his great vow that he had taken when he was a very young boy, because his father was attracted to this woman called Satyavati, who is also called as Matsya Gandhi because she was the daughter of a fisherman, and because King Shantanu became enamored by her beauty and wanted to marry her, Satyavati's father would tell Shantanu that we are from the fisher caste, and if my daughter marries you, she won't get any position because you already have a son by your first wife, and he is the prince in waiting to become the king. So even if she bears children, it's of no use because you will not give them any position. So like this, Shantanu is greatly disturbed and he comes back to his palace. And at that time, Bhishma is called Devavrata. He has finished his Gurukul Abhyas and he is back in the palace. And he is getting ready to be the next king. So when the father comes back to the palace in a disturbed state of mind, Devavrata will go and ask his father, why are you so disturbed? So then the father says that, these things happened and I wanted to marry this woman, but then I cannot give away your position as the next king. So I can't give you up, therefore, and father is very sad. So very typical Kshatriya Shantanu is, we find, And we will find in contrast a Kshatriya like no other, Bhishma Deva. Because Kshatriyas are given to boasting, Kshatriyas are, by nature they marry several times, they woo women. All these things are part of Kshatriya's nature, characteristics, everything. That is why Shantanu is once married and Ganga leaves and goes. Now he is attracted to this Satyavati, he wants to marry her. Throughout history we will find many such Kshatriya kings. But Bhishma stands out among all the Kshatriyas because he actually lives like a Muni his entire life. So that young age, Bhishma will actually take a Shapada saying that I will not get married, I will not have progeny, and I will never lay claim to the throne of Hastinapura. And also he promises at that time that I will also, as long as I live, I will be loyal to the throne of Hastinapura. So this Shapata or this vow was so hard, that is why he was given the name Bhishma, one who can take very heavy vows. That is how he got this name Bhishma. Otherwise, he is called, his actual name is Devavrata. So this is Bhishma's unique position in the Mahabharata. So is he a Kshatriya? Yes. Is he a warrior? Yes. Is he a Brahmachari? Yes and no. Is he a Rishi? Yes and no. So these are all very unique characteristics of Bhishma. And we will also find in Bhishma's characteristic that this is a very regular question that arises in everybody's mind, that Bhishma is a Mahajana, he is a great devotee of Krishna, and then why did he act in such a way that when Draupadi was being disrobed in the Kuru Sabha, in the Dyut Sabha, why did Bhishma keep quiet? And that is always looked upon or shown as the great failing of Bhishma. So, two ways to read it. One is as part of the Lord's inconceivable Leela. Second, as Bhishma, although he is all these things, he considered one dharma to be superior to another dharma. That is, Bhishma knew that what is happening is not dharma. Specifically in relationship with what happened to Draupadi, what happened to the Pandavas. But because he was tied by his pradigya, tied by his vow to the throne of Hastinapura, So Bhishma, because of that shapadham, because of that vow, he considered that vow to be his topmost dharma. You see, he considered that vow to be his topmost dharma. So that is where the whole thing changed. You see, that he had to be arrayed on the side of the adharmis, knowing fully well that Duryodhana is doing adharma. Right? Why? Because I have taken the vow. And so I cannot escape from it. And that is why it is said that after the war was over, Bhishma chose to lie on a bed of arrows because he wanted to make sure that every drop of blood that was there in his body that had the allegiance to the Kurus should be wasted fully. Why? Because that overrode his original dharma. No? The vow of allegiance to the throne of Hastinapura was actually derailing Bhishma's higher dharma. So after now the whole thing is over and Bhishma is on deathbed, because when Shikhandi comes, Bhishma says, I shall not fight. And this is how things have to end, Because even when everything happened and the war is fully ready, and Duryodhana always knew that whether Bhishma liked it or not, he was duty bound to protect Duryodhana. And he knew that as long as Bhishma is there, no Pandava will be able to kill Duryodhana or his brothers. So, when Pandavas were depending on Krishna, Duryodhana was actually fully dependent on Bhishma. So, before the war begins, Bhishma will tell Duryodhana that you think that you will never lose this war because I am fighting on your side. And as long as I fight with my full prowess, this Kuru Sainya cannot be defeated. But he says, you forgot that Shikhandi is there, he has got the boon, and eventually, sooner rather than later, they will put Shikhandi in front of me. And that is when I will do Tyaga of my weapons. And that is when, my dear boy Duryodhana, you and your brothers are all going to be finished. So, Bhishma knew exactly how these things are all being laid out. And he knew how these things are going to end. So, this is the very unique and interesting history of Bhishma and how he comes to be lying on this bed of arrows. That he said that because I had sworn allegiance to this throne and then I had to be showing my allegiance to an adharmi like Duryodhana. So every morsel of food that I have eaten from the Kurus, by which all this blood in my body is flowing, let it all flow out. So Bhishma is a very high level yogi, So he decided, this is how I am going to get rid of this entire reaction of whatever I have done, And then I will be ready, to meet my Lord. And in the 9th chapter, we are going to see how Bhishma meets Krishna at the end of his life. So the chapter starts with Yudhishthira and all the other Pandavas are going along with Krishna. Krishna and Arjuna in one chariot, Yudhishthira in another chariot, and Nakula, Sahadeva, Bhima in their chariots. Suta Goswami says that Yudhishthira looked typically like Indra, coming with his entourage. So, because his entourage was not only these great Kshatriyas were accompanying him, also there were many rishis, including Vyasa and Daumya and Vasishtha. All these people are traveling to bear witness to what is going to happen. Narada Muni came, Parvata Muni came, Daumya came, Vyasa, Brihadashva, Bharadwaja, Parashurama, Shugabrahma Rishi himself, Kashyapa, Angiras, you name a Rishi, they were all there. Why? Because they all know that something very wonderful is going to happen. And then Yudhishthira is paying his Dandavat to Bhishma Dev, and Bhishma Dev is welcoming Yudhishthira and all the other great rishis, everybody, So you may be wondering how he will, give them welcome according to time and place, sweet words and hearty expressions. This is how Suta Goswami is describing. So we may wonder, a man lying for so many days on a bed of arrows, how much pain he will be undergoing. This is the first thought that hits us. and it is simply because of our bodily conception. And these personalities are not on that level of bodily conception. So Bhishma is fully equipoised and ready. In Samadhi, he is already, so he is welcoming all these great personalities. He is also welcoming Lord Krishna. He is worshipping Lord Krishna. And Pandavas were sitting next to Bhishma, because they looked upon him as their protector, as the Pidamaha. And Arjuna especially had been the recipient of a lot of Vatsalya from Bhishma Deva. So they are all so overwhelmed by the occasion, and Bhishma also overwhelmed by the emotion and the occasion, and because so much of love and affection he had for these grandchildren who were always under one trouble or the other. And then Bhishma recalls that, aho kashtam aho anyayam yadyuyam dharmanandanaha jivitum narhata klishtam vipradharma achyuta asrayaha. So Bhishma says that what terrible sufferings and what terrible injustices you good souls, being the sons of religion personified, you have endured so much. You did not deserve to remain under these tribulations, yet you were protected by Brahmanas, Vipra, Dharma, by your Dharma and Achyutashraya. Most important thing, He said, although your life was put into danger so many times, but always you were protected by the Brahmanas, by your Dharma and by your Achyutashraya, because you were always taking the Ashraya of Lord Achyuta, And then he goes on to say, but you shouldn't worry too much about these things, because Sarvakala kritam manye bhavatam chayadapriyam sapalo yadvashe loko vayo riva ghanavalihi. So Bhishma says, this is all done by sarvam kala kritam. It is all done by inevitable time, Over time, these things are inevitable, they are happening. Says like Vayo Riva Ganavali, just like wind controls the clouds. Sometimes they are joined together, sometimes they are thrown hither and thither. So he says, you shouldn't actually be worried so much about it. And then he's saying, you had so much of difficulty, even though you had very good support, Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, and you had Krishna's support, but still there was so much of difficulty for all of you. So this is something, yet again, a great question mark for many people. Many people would say that, okay, you are talking about taking shelter of Krishna, and these people, especially the Pandavas, they had always taken shelter of Krishna. And did their troubles stop in any way? Throughout their lives, they had trouble. And ultimately, when they were looking like becoming free from trouble, Krishna left and went also. So, how do we understand all these things? So, Bhishma has an answer for that also. Nahyasya karhididrajan puman veda vidishtitam yad vijnayasyasya yukta muhyanti kavayopihi. So Bhishma says that no one can know the plan of Lord Krishna. Even though great philosophers, they inquire exhaustively, even they are bewildered. So, all of these things happen by Krishna's plan. And even the best of philosophers or the greatest of Gyanis, they have no idea about what Krishna's plan is. So he is telling Yudhishthira, you just accept the Lord's plan and obey Lord's plan, and you take care of your people now. He is giving instruction. He is giving instruction, and he is telling that even though everything is dependent on the Lord and no one knows his plan, but can we not ask Krishna? Yesha vai Bhagavan Sakshad Adyo Narayanah Puman Mohayan Mayaya Lokam Gudascharati Vrishnishu. So he is saying, Yeshavai Bhagavan Sakshat. He is Sakshat Bhagavan. Who? Now he is going to say, Sakshat Bhagavan, original personality of Godhead, Adyo Narayana Puman. He is the original Narayana, the original enjoyer, Puman. Mohayan Mayaya Lokam. He is bewildering the entire world, by Gudascharati Vrishnishu. He is, inconceivably moving in the Vrishnikula, in the family of the Vrishnis, in the lineage of the Vrishnis. He has simply appeared and he is bewildering everybody. So many people will simply consider him as one of the Vrishnis, while actually he is the one inconceivably staying and controlling everything. And he continues to say that only Mahajanas like Shiva, Narada and Kapila, they only know the glories of the Lord very confidentially through direct contact. And Bhishma says, even they only know his activities, not his intentions. You see? So he says, even the great personalities, they are very well versed with the activities of the Supreme Lord. But his intentions, nobody is able to find out. And here now, Bhishma is one of them actually. Even though he speaks about Shiva, Narada, etc., Brahma, but he is also one among those 12, So now he is just going to instruct, or he is going to speak his prayers for the benefit of the entire mankind. And he continues to say that, do not misunderstand the Lord to be an ordinary human. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because of your ignorance, you thought that he is, my maternal cousin, he is my younger brother, he is my bandhu, like that. He is none of those things. He is all of those things, and he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is how we misunderstand. So he is telling Yudhishthira, even you misunderstood the position of the Lord and you thought that, he is my cousin. Is it not? So then he continues to speak about Krishna's wonderful quality. Sarvatmanas samadrisho hi advaya syanaham kritehe tatkritam mati vaishamyam niravadyasya na kvachit. Being the absolute personality of Godhead, he is present in everyone's heart. Sarvatmana samadrisho, he is equally kind to everyone. He advaya sya anahankratehe, he is equally kind to everyone. He is free from false ego of differentiation. Advaya tatkritam mati vaishamyam niravadyasya na kvachit. Therefore, whatever he does is free from material inebriety and he is equibalanced. So you may think of Krishna being partial, you may think that Krishna did something for Arjuna that he did not do for other people. All these things are our misunderstandings, because everything is actually happening from Krishna's position as his Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is, now we must understand that this is Bhishma's mood and this is Bhishma's bhava for Krishna. As we go on reading these prayers, that bhava will become all the more clear for us. And then he says, now he has said that Lord is samadrisha. And now he says, Tada apyekanta bhakteshu pashya bhumanu kampitam yanme sumstyajadas sakshat krishno darshanamagataha. This is something unparalleled. This is something unparalleled in the entire history. That now Bhishma is saying, Tathapi ekanta bhakteshu, for his unflinching devotees. Anukampitam, how sympathetic the Lord is. Yanme asun tyajattaha, that is, that I am about to give up my life. and Krishno darshanamagataha. So, Sakshat Krishno darshanamagataha. That self-same Krishna is coming personally. Just as I am about to give up my life, look at him. Although he is Samadrisha, although he is Niravadyasya, he is completely freed from all attachment, but still Tathapi Ekanta Bhakteshu. If somebody is an unflinching devotee of Krishna, so beyond all the externalities of Bhishma being the great warrior and being on the side of the Kurus and his Vrata and all those things, now we understand from Bhishma's own words that Ekanta Bhakti. Throughout all these, Bhishma has been maintaining his Ekanta Bhakti. Because of that, Anukampitam, because of that, Krishna is showing that Anukampa, that empathy. Krishna is showing the highest of mercy by coming personally. Sakshat Krishno darshanam agataha. Bhaktya veshya mano yasmin vachayan nama kirtayan tyajan kalevaram yogi muchyate kama karma bhi. The personality of Godhead appears in the mind of the devotee by attentive devotion and meditation, and by chanting of the holy name releases the devotee from the bondage of fruitive activities at the time of his quitting the material body. Bhaktya veshya mano yasmin vacha yan nama kirtayan. So, Lord will appear in our mind if we are devoted, if we are always meditating on Krishna, if we are chanting the holy name of Krishna, and he will release us. Tyajan kalevaram yogi muchyate kama karma bhihi. He will release the devotee from the bondage of kamya karma at the time of quitting the material body. So, this is Bhishma's verdict of what happens when you do these things. And then now Bhishma is making the next wish. Sadeva devo bhagavan pratikshitam kalevaram yavadidam hinomyaham prasanna hasa aruna lochano ullasan mukhambujo dhyanapadas chadurbhujaha. This is Bhishma's wish, and this is how the Lord gives darshan to Bhishma. Sadeva devo, Lord of Lords, Bhagavan, Supreme Personality of Godhead, pratikshatam, may he kindly wait. Kalevaram yavatidam hinomi, when I am about to quit my body. Prasanna, very cheerfully. Hasa, mandahasa, smiling. Aruna lochana, red eyes of the Lord. Ullasat, beautifully decorated. Mukha ambujau, I want to see that red-eyed Lord, cheerful, smiling. That lotus face of my Lord I want to see. Dhyana patha. Let that face be on the path of my meditation. Chaturbhuja. So I want to see my Lord with Chaturbhujam, with Prasanna, Hasa, Aruna, Lochana, Ullasat. So very beautifully decorated Lord with that beautiful smile on his face, his four-armed form. May I please be able to see, Let him be in the path of my meditation. He is making a wish. Prabhupada writes in the purport that a devotee, even though he may be at the topmost level of his devotion, would never demand anything from the Lord, or would never think that I am qualified for this. No. Prabhupada says a pure devotee is never anxious to go back to the kingdom of God. He entirely depends on the goodwill of the Lord. He is equally satisfied even if the Lord desires that he goes to hell. So Bhishma is such a great devotee, yet with great humility, he is saying, I wish that the Lord would appear before me like this. You know, the smiling face of my Lord. So Bhishma has got very clear idea as to how I am going to live. You know, this is clarity of thought of a devotee. And then, having said all these things, now Yudhishthira will start asking Bhishma questions, you know, and Bhishma will instruct Yudhishthira on Varnashrama, on Dana Dharma, on Raja Dharma, on Moksha Dharma, Stri Dharma, Bhagavad Dharma. So all these dharmas, Bhishma will give instruction to Yudhishthira, because Krishna will tell Yudhishthira that you see this person in front of you, there is no better teacher for you than this personality, because he is a master on all these subjects. He will speak about occupational duties of all the varnas, all the ashramas, you know, he will quote from history, and Bhishma will, you know, very eloquently speak on all these dharmas to Yudhishthira. All so eloquently speaking, lying on a bed of arrows. You know, this is what we say, you know, always talking about going beyond the bodily conception. So Bhishma is actually showing here how one goes beyond the bodily conception. You know, any number of arrows on his body, that is not affecting him in the least bit, because he is simply fixed on his real self. At that time, as Bhishma is speaking like this to Yudhishthira, these are given in Bhagavatam, only a synopsis that he spoke about these subject matters. That's all is given in Bhagavatam. The details are there in Mahabharata, you know, where Bhishma, how about Stri, about Moksha, about Bhagavata Dharma, you know, about what a king should do, about what a Brahmana should and should not do, about what a Kshatriya should and should not do. Everything very elaborately explained by Bhishma to Yudhishthira. And at that time, sun is moving from Dakshinayana to Uttarayana. So, Suta Goswami says, Tatopasamhritya giras sahasranir vimukta sangam manadi purushe Krishne lasatpidapate chadurbhuje purastite milita drig vyadharaya. The man who spoke on thousands of subjects, who fought thousands of battles, he withdrew his mind on, focused on the Adi Purusha. So now he becomes silent, quiet, and he is completely absorbing his mind on Adi Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And by pure meditation, looking at Lord Sri Krishna, he at once was freed from all material inauspiciousness. He was relieved from all bodily pains caused by the arrows. Thus, all the external activities of his senses at once stopped, and he prayed transcendently to the controller of all living beings, quitting his material body. So this is how Bhishma is readying himself to quit his material body. A perfect example of how one should act at the time of death. You know, that is being shown here. It's like a tutorial given by Bhishma, you know, for everybody to think, behave, you know. And then Bhishma Deva says, let me now invest my thinking, feeling and willing, which were so long engaged in different subjects and occupational duties, in the all-powerful Lord Sri Krishna. He is always self-satisfied, but sometimes, being the leader of devotees, he enjoys transcendental pleasure by descending to this material world, although it is from him only that this material world is created. So, he speaks about Krishna being the Satvata Pungave, the leader of his devotees. He says, now I want to invest my thinking, feeling and willing in Lord Krishna. So, it is very important that the nature of our thoughts should be such that they will lead us to think of Krishna. And that is what is showing in this passing away of Bhishma. So the previous verse, it says that the man who has fought 1,000 battles, he has advised thousands of people, he has done politics, he has done Raja Dharma. He has, for 3 generations, he has looked after this Kuru Vamsha and the throne. He has very steadfastly, he has stood by it and, fought many wars. That means his life has been filled with so much of material incidents. But when the time comes, he says, now everything I am withdrawing. And then now he is focusing more. Tribhuvana kamanam tamala varnam ravikara gaurava rambaram dadhane vapur alaka kula vrtanana abjam vijaya sakhe ratirastume anavadya. He is explaining the beauty of Krishna. He says he is the intimate friend of Arjuna. He has appeared on this earth in his transcendental body, which resembles the bluish color of the Tamala tree. His body attracts everyone in the 3 planetary systems. Tribhuvana kamanam tamala varnam. May his glittering yellow dress and his lotus face covered with paintings of sandalwood pulp be the object of my attraction, and may I not desire fruitive results. Vapur alaka kulavrutanana abjam. So his face is decorated with sandalwood pulp. Vijaya Sakhe, friend of Vijaya, friend of Arjuna. Tamala Varnam, Tribhuvana Kamanam, that personality who can attract the entire 3 worlds, So Bhishma is not able to see or think beyond that sweetness of Lord Krishna. Just imagine. And then he comes back to his chivalrous mood, Yudhito ragarajo vidhumra vishwak kachalulita sramavaryalankrita mama nishita sharer vibidhyamana tvachi vilasat kavachestu Krishna atma. Now he speaks about, that chivalrous mood in which he and Krishna interacted. He said, on the battlefield where Sri Krishna attended Arjuna out of friendship, the flowing hair of Lord Krishna turned ashen due to the dust raised by the hooves of the horses, and because of his labor, beads of sweat wetted his face. All these decorations, intensified by the wounds on his skin dealt by my sharp arrows, were enjoyed by him. Let my mind thus go unto Sri Krishna. You see? So, now he is speaking about how he remembers Krishna in that battlefield, because Bhishma is a warrior. In his current situation, he is a warrior, and he enjoys that, interaction with Krishna as a warrior on the battlefield. He speaks about, the blood on Krishna's face, the sweat and the dust on Krishna's face. For us, we may think, oh, is this something that is attractive? Yes. When you are a pure devotee like Bhishma and in that chivalrous mood, even that is attractive. And then he says how the Lord was so obedient to Arjuna's commands, Why? Because you are the charioteer of Arjuna. No? So when Arjuna says move left, Lord will move left. When Arjuna says move right, the Lord will move right. Bhishma is remembering all these things in his prayers. And he says that obedient to Arjuna's commands, the Lord shortened the lifespans of the opposite party simply by mercifully looking at them. And he also remembers how Lord eradicated Arjuna's ignorance by delivering the transcendental knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. And he says, let that Lord's lotus feet always remain my object of my attention. And then he also remembers how, fulfilling my vow and sacrificing his own promise, he got down from the chariot, took up its wheel and ran towards me hurriedly, just as a lion goes to kill an elephant. He even dropped his outer garment on the way. This is one, we always speak of Krishna being the breaker of promises, he is very famous for that. So, one promise Krishna breaks in the Mahabharata war to keep up another promise. What is the one promise? One promise he takes is that I will not lift a weapon in the Mahabharata war. That is Krishna's promise. Now a devotee promises, I will make you take a weapon in this war. And who is that devotee? Bhishma Deva. So what will Krishna do now? He will say, to hell with my promise, my devotee's promise comes first. You see? So that is the only reason why Krishna lifts that, he will jump from Arjuna's chariot, he will lift a, broken chariot's wheel is lying down, he will just lift it and he will charge towards Bhishma. And even his, Uttariya is falling down, he is not bothered because he is gotten into so much rage. This happens on a very interesting day of battle in Kurukshetra. The previous day, Duryodhana will go to Bhishma and tell him, I know that you are not attacking the Pandavas in a proper manner. You are always letting them go very freely. So if we continue like this, war is going to be difficult. So Bhishma will ask him, what do you want? So Duryodhana will say, you know what I want, So Bhishma will say, okay, I have got 5 special arrows for 5 Pandavas. Okay. And tomorrow I promise you that I will use these 5 arrows on the Pandavas. So Duryodhana, being very over smart, over intelligent, he will look at Bhishma. Okay. The look says, I don't trust you. So Bhishma will say, he smiles, he knows everything, what is going to happen. So he will tell Duryodhana, for you to feel very confident, I will give the 5 arrows to you. You keep it in your camp tonight. Tomorrow morning, when we are on the way to the battlefield, you give me these 5 arrows. Tomorrow I will finish off the 5 Pandavas for you. Okay. So then Duryodhana feels, okay. Otherwise this man may change his mind overnight and tomorrow he will say something else. So he will take the arrows very happily and he will go. So Krishna will tell Arjuna, you have one boon from Duryodhana. Once in the forest when Duryodhana, over smart, he was that he challenged the Gandharva for a fight and got beaten left, right and center, and you went and saved him. So that time Duryodhana will tell Arjuna, you should ask me for something, and I will give you, because you saved me from this great, it is a great discredit for me if somebody comes to know that I was beaten in the forest by a Gandharva, So Arjuna will say, when the time comes, I will ask you. So like that. So Krishna will remind Arjuna that you should go today to Duryodhana and tell him, I want my boon. You promise me. So Arjuna will ask, what should I ask? Ask him for the 5 arrows, special arrows that he has got in his hand. So like this, Arjuna will go and he will tell Duryodhana, you remember all these things, so please give me. So Duryodhana has no choice. He gives and he says, who told you? Then Arjuna will say, you know and I know who told me. Krishna told, So again, Duryodhana will run back to Bhishma and tell him, that Krishna is a very, crooked man. He somehow knew this and he has come and taken the arrow. Please, can you chant 5 more special arrows and give me? Then Bhishma will laugh. He will say, no. These very 5 are only, they are unique, They are made to order. They are not, factory made that you can make same things. No, not possible. So then, in that conversation, Bhishma will tell Duryodhana, don't worry. Tomorrow I am going to, arrow or no arrow, don't worry. Tomorrow I am going to attack them so vehemently, You will see a completely different Bhishma tomorrow like that. That is the day when Bhishma was attacking Arjuna to the hilt, So then Lord knew. Of course, Lord knew that Bhishma, even though he will attack Arjuna to the hilt, Bhishma will not kill him. At the same time, Krishna knew that Bhishma is doing this so that, I will take weapon. So, like this. And then he is praying, Bhishma is praying that at the moment of my death, let my ultimate attraction be to Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. I concentrate my mind upon Arjuna's chariot driver. So, Bhishma is ultimately focusing his mind on Lord as Parthasarathi, who stood with a whip in his right hand and a bridle rope in his left, So this is how Bhishma remembers Krishna. Whip in one hand and the horses are held by Krishna with his left hand like that, And he was very careful to give protection to Arjuna's chariot by all means. Those who saw him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained their original forms after death. So everybody who saw Krishna on the battlefield while leaving their body, all of them actually got liberated. You see. And then we think that Bhishma will only have these kind of, he will remember only these kind of pastimes. Now, the rest of the prayer of Bhishma is very, very wonderful. So Bhishma is chivalrous on one hand. At the same time, he is also remembering the sweetness of Krishna. Bhishma continues to pray. He says, "Let my mind be fixed upon Lord Sri Krishna, whose motions and smiles of love attracted the damsels of Rajadham, the gopis." The gopis imitated the characteristic movements of the Lord after his disappearance from the Rasa dance. So he is now remembering Lord in Rasa Leela. This is why I said Bhishma is actually the topmost level devotee, because he can even remember Krishna in his Rasa Leela pastime. And then he remembers at the Rajasuya sacrifice performed by Maharaj Yudhishthira, there was the greatest assembly of all the elite men from the world, the royal and learned orders, and in that great assembly, Lord Sri Krishna was worshipped by one and all as the most exalted personality of Godhead. This happened during my presence, and I remember the incident in order to keep my mind upon the Lord. So this is another example how great devotees get reasons to remember the Lord. So he says that I remember that, scene by scene, how in the Rajasuya sacrifice, all the people got together and ultimately they all agreed, yes, Krishna should be honored like this. So Bhishma says, I remember that incident so that I can, when the time comes, I will remember this. Now I can meditate with full concentration upon that one Lord Sri Krishna, now present before me, because now I have transcended the misconceptions of duality in regards to his presence in everyone's heart, even in the hearts of the mental speculators. He is in everyone's heart. The sun may be perceived differently, but the sun is one. So like this, Bhishma is praying, and Bhishma Dev attains what is called as Nirvikalpa Samadhi. He completely enters into the thought. Bhishma Dev merged in the unlimited eternity of the Supreme Absolute. So this is how Bhishma attains Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And all the Devatas, everybody will come and they will honor Bhishma, and his funeral is performed. All the great sages who are assembled there, they will glorify Krishna with various stutis, and then they will all go back to their ashramas. And then Yudhishthira along with Krishna, they go back to Hastinapura. They are consoling all the people who lost their dear and near ones. Thus, Yudhishthira Maharaj continued to rule over the Kurus, over Hastinapura, approved by Dhritarashtra and confirmed by Supreme Lord Krishna. So, this is how the 9th chapter of the first canto gets concluded. Srimad Bhagavatam Granth Raj ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.